right, welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with us. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. I know it's short notice. That's what we do here. We try to empower our folks with the right skills and tools when they have interviews, and that's all we can control, people. Thank you all. Thank you for joining and making it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Let's give everybody else another 1 minute and we'll get started. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Lions Den. Thank you. With us today, one of our mentors. She has one of getting close to the final offer. So we just want to make sure we can support as much as possible towards ultimately getting a job. I know it's short notice, but we'll try and make it as impactful as possible. Thank you all. All right, welcome on board, everybody. Thank you so much. As always, Akin Akifenwa here. Always a delight to be one of the mentors on our platform, and it's always exciting to have you all on board. There are many things you can be doing on a Monday morning. You chose to hang out with us for that. Big thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you all. All right, let's give everybody else another 1 minute and we will get started. So today, one of the things I want to challenge us as a community is this. As we enter the first quarter, as we are gradually getting to the middle of the first quarter, a lot of openings, we are seeing them ease up right now. So many opportunities are there now compared to the last 2 months. And that's because we had the Thanksgiving break, Christmas holiday, New Year holiday. So technically, the first 2 weeks of January was a little bit slow also. But now we are seeing more traction. People are leveraging and taking advantage of the first part of the year towards hiring. And I've seen it with a lot of my own clients and partners. Everybody is really building momentum right now. So I think it's a good time for everyone on the call. It's not a time to relax and just quit. It's a time to just get the momentum going. The universe loves speed. So I challenge everybody on the call, get your resume out there, push it. If you've applied before and there's no traction, it's okay. Let us revamp the resume and reboot the process again. That's what I'll recommend. And if you don't mind, as always, please just like the button, put some chat. Let's see what you got just to make sure everybody's good. And just like our button, today we have one of our mentors here also. And the nice thing, I love that somebody says success loves speed. I agree with that. It's all about execution, folks. We can stay and complain and, but at the end of the day, it makes no difference really. Ultimately, it's all about execution. It's not about you having the ideas and thinking of it or wishing it. It's strictly execution focus. So let's keep executing. Sometimes we get no's. It's okay. It's part of the process. Just keep pushing. Just keep pushing. At the end of the day, remember we only need one job. So don't quit. Just keep pushing. All right. So today we have one of our mentors, as I said, Soso on the line. Hi, Soso. How are you, sis?
Hello, I'm doing good.
All right. Soso, I mean, it's exciting to have you. And today she's applying for a third party risk role. And we said, okay, why don't we just, she's figured out a lot of things around interviewing. But I said, hey, if you don't mind, can you just stop by and just still fine tune your skill towards this role you're applying for? Let's see, we have blind spots and we can work on that together as a community. Now, remember, as a community, remember, this is your show. I am just the facilitator. So if you have questions, put it at the comments. I will see them and I'll pull them up there. I can see someone says, universe loves speed. That's awesome. So we're going to share your comments. So please help so that we can close the deal ultimately at the end of the game. Okay. So that's the goal for us. So all right, let's get started. And typically, what we do is remember again, as always, no matter how smart or good your session is, we are very conservative. So if we give you 4 or 5 out of 10, don't take it personal. It's just our way of saying You might be good, but we want you to go do better for yourself and ultimately get a job. So that's the real idea about it. So don't take it personal. The other thing is that please always remember again, you know, let's just give positive and constructive feedback to our community. That's what we do here. All right. So I'm going to just quickly go through the role. Then I would put so on the spotlight. Typically, this should not take us more than 20 minutes. We'll be out of here, folks. I know most of us are at work right now, but let's just go through it and see what this role is all about, real quick. All right. So this is a third party risk analyst role. Um, One of the things I would say about the role is that, like most third party role, naturally we expect you to be focused on third party within the organization you belong to. And there are some general questions I think we should all be ready to go with. For example, I could ask you, what are the platform you use to manage third party within your environment? So be ready to talk about the tool you use to manage third party. In our environment, we use Risk Rhino as our preferred vendor, right? And there are so many tools out there. Security Scorecard is a popular one. But one thing I'll tell you so about Security Scorecard, it's very easy to use. So I'm not going to even stress that at all. It's a very easy tool to use. So I feel comfortable you can learn that within honestly 15, 20 minutes. Not a big deal. I've used it before too. There are so many tools out there today for third party. There's one called, I'll tell you the name now. Okay, yeah, the name, let me show you. It's called Trust Cloud. Trust Cloud is also used for a lot of things around third party and risk assessment. It's mostly aligned with AI, right? Then, of course, we have Archer, we have other GRC tools that can also do third party work in general. All right. Somebody can also ask you, just get ready, describe your approach to conducting a third party risk assessment. Because at the end of the day, remember again, we are still ultimately liable. So they could ask you, walk us through how you do a third party risk assessment also. They could ask you, you have multiple vendors, multiple third party. How do you prioritize risk around all of this organization and their operation in general? They could ask you, how did you navigate a third party vendor that was not providing or being responsive to you as a business? What do you do in that kind of case? They will ask you, tell us how you build a third party risk management program in general at the program level. Then they could ask you, walk me through the third party life cycle in general. So I'm going to ask that too. They will ask you, like I said, sometimes vendors would always occasionally fail to meet your security requirement, like they don't have access to SOC 2 report or whatever it is. We want to see your thought process around that too. All right. So that's the high level, just to kind of give you an idea of some things that could be hacked in general. And without further ado, let's make it your show. All right. Now it's your show, sis. Okay. So all right, let's start with the obvious. All right, so we saw a resume online, so we think you might be a fit for one of the roles we are currently hiring for. Can you walk us through your experience as a third-party risk analyst?
Yes, definitely. So I have a prior background working in both the first and second line of defense. And so from my experience, I've supported various functions from both perspectives. So from the GRC and third party risk management perspective, from the third party risk management side of things. So I normally support I would say the whole like vendor life cycle, specifically at various stages. So for example, during onboarding, I normally focus on due diligence and contract reviews, making sure that we have clauses that focus on service level agreements, right to audit, breach notification, and on the other useful clauses that are necessary to state out. And then in a situation where a vendor has been onboarded, I would make sure to continuously engage with that vendor, either for scheduled reassessments or to make sure that the vendor is meeting any predefined metrics that were already established based on the services that they're providing. And in instances where we're terminating our contract or relationship with that vendor, I've also been part of offboarding activities, whether that it be from revoking the vendor's access or making sure on their end they have data disposition in terms of showing proof of the organization's data being disposed or destructed completely. So that's a bit of my experience with that there. And I've made
Okay.
use of various tools like OneTrust and ServiceNow and third-party risk management models to support that.
Okay. So let me ask you, in our organization, it's a healthcare business, right? And We just deployed MRI and CT scan machine right now, and we need to move these systems to the cloud. So at the moment, we are exploring, considering, like multiple cloud service provider. So if you were to advise us as leadership, what would you tell us is the best practices from end to end of a third party risk management point of view? What would you tell us to do to do our due diligence?
Yeah, sure. I would say the most important points, like the whole like third party life cycle is very collaborative, but I would say the most important points would be like that onboarding phase for due diligence, engaging with the business owners that are going to be making use of those vendor services to understand the scope, the criticality, and also an idea of like the inherent risk that that vendor will be posing to the organization. And so that will help you understand how much due diligence you need to do, what kind of questionnaires you might need to send out to that vendor, the type of due diligence documentation you might need. So that's a bit of an overview of that, I would say, like due diligence aspect of onboarding. And then, as said earlier, there's also going to be aspects where you have to focus on contract reviews, especially things like right to audit clauses and instances where, termination with that vendor might become an issue. So that's just, I would say, that aspect of onboarding, and also then continuously monitoring that vendor to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing. So verifying the design and implementation of their controls over the period of the vendor relationship.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so let's say you are negotiating a new contract with a potential third party vendor. What are some of the key security and risk management clauses you prioritize in the agreement in general?
Yeah, I would say the causes that I would prioritize in general, of course, it's dependent on what kind of services they're providing and the vendor relationship. But I would say once you have general things like right to audit, breach notification, termination clauses, we can then focus on certain like service level agreements that are dependent on their services that they're providing. So, for example, any RPOs or RTOs that you might want to, set out as a clause in that contract that both you and the vendor are agreeing upon.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. All right. Can you walk us explain how you typically do continuous monitoring of your third party vendor in general and their risk? How do you follow up, mitigate, or remediate their issues? Deal with emerging threats in general?
Yes, definitely. So for that, I've made use of, I've worked with organizations that made use of tools, so automated tools like Security Scorecard and UpGuard to automate that monitoring process. And so aside from, like, for example, I know at my previous role, like I would get an update once the vendor's like score has dropped. So I would
Yeah.
immediately reach out to the vendor to let them know that, oh, your score has dropped like 50 points. What's going on? Have there been any changes, etc. So that definitely gives more ability to enhance real-time communication, and then aside from that also implementing like reassessments depending on like the term of our contract with that vendor.
Okay, got it. So let me ask you, with scorecard, and I've seen a lot of vendors complain that scorecard pull data that are not necessarily, factual at times, that they could be false positives, and it's not a true reflection of their environment. How would you handle that? Yes, it has some meaningful information it's spitting out, but sometimes some of the vendors will push back and say, no, it's not a true reflection of their environment. So how do you reconcile those two together?
Oh yeah, sure, definitely. I would say there, like you said, there are instances where they can be false positives. So
Yeah.
I might receive an alert on something. I would definitely first of all engage with the vendor rep directly to
Yeah.
make sure that this is actually like a positive. So to confirm it is something that is correct with the environment. And then if it's a situation where it is not, I'll definitely like trust but also verify if they could show
Mhm.
me any form of like evidences or an artifact that shows that okay, maybe there haven't been any changes in their environment, or they still have the design and implementation that we have documented for them. So I would say just communicating with the vendor rep directly, so engaging with them
Okay.
to understand. Yeah.
Got it. How do you keep abreast of the different risk landscape around multiple vendors with your questionnaires? How often do you review your questionnaires or to make them contemporaneous to real time? What's been your process like around that?
Yeah, I would say like vendor questionnaire fatigue is definitely real. Like as we see instances where you send out a questionnaire and a vendor might just let you know that they're not really interested in filling that up, and then they could respond with like a SOC 2 report or something like that. But I would say, in order to promote efficiency with that, there, what I specifically have proposed, like in an organization that I worked prior and also implemented, was vendor tiering. So basically, when we look at the criticality of a vendor and also the inherent risk that they pose, we're able to understand, as said earlier, like how much due diligence we can do. And so we use that to cater the questionnaires that we send out to them. And then I think overall, the efficiency of the questionnaires that we send out to the vendors, bringing down the questions to more, I would say, open-ended questions, because there are some questions that can be a bit redundant. So focusing more on questions that are more open-ended, and I would say give the vendors opportunity to provide like documentation in real time, because there are definitely instances where you could ask a question and then
Okay.
it's a bit unnecessary because you might need to verify with them afterwards. So just definitely leaving the question to be more open-ended.
Got it. So how would you typically handle if somebody asks you that we need you to build a full third-party risk management program for our organization? How would you handle that typically?
Yes, I would say handling that there would definitely start from what kind of like framework we want to do. So starting from the top down. So in
Okay.
regards to what kind of framework we want for that, to the methodology, and then also what our policy is going to be. So looking at the scope. So what services or applications are going to be in scope for that third party risk management process? Because not every vendor needs to go through that process on there. So being able to build that from the top of the scope, knowing applicable stakeholders or individuals that will be involved in that whole process. So just having a process that supports the whole vendor life cycle there.
Okay. You mentioned earlier on that you have different tiers of vendors. Can you walk us through that process generally? How do you typically tier the vendors within your organization right now?
Mhm. Yes. So right now we tier based on the criticality and also the inherent risk rating. So for example, tier one. So we tier based on like tier one, two, and three. So tier one ranking would be a critical vendor and high risk. So that's like the categorization for that, I would say. So criticality based on if we're supposed to have like an unexpected loss of these vendors service, is it going to disrupt our organization? And then the risk level, the inherent risk they possess. So understanding what kind of data they're going to be accessing, where is
Yeah.
that data going to be stored, and the risk associated with that access. So is it something that's operational, compliance related? So based on that, we're able to understand or give a particular risk rating or risk level, which would be what we use to tier the vendors. And then, of course, we look at residual risk after remediation has occurred and update that as necessary there.
Excellent. So, how would you, in general, how would you tier, or let me rephrase this, how would you communicate effectively third-party risk to your senior management?
Sure. And just to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly, like the importance of third party risk.
So there's a risk you've identified that is a pattern within a strategic vendor of your business. How would you communicate that to your leadership?
Yes. So what I would do in terms of communicating the importance of that is definitely relating that to the business risk. So how is that third party risk going to affect the business process or just in general the business risk? So I think just relating the third party risk to the business risk and business impact.
Got it. Okay. So the other question I have is, how do you keep yourself abreast of some of the main challenges around third-party risk in the industry? What do you do?
Yeah, I would say and just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, like I guess the general like issues that come up with third party risk management.
Yeah, for example, you could have Gardner reports talking about third-party, Deloitte reports, Big Four reports, and how do you keep abreast of all those issues noticed worldwide on risk of third party?
Oh, perfect. Thank you for explaining that further for me. Yeah, I would say generally what I like to do is I like to like follow, like you said there, Gardner bringing out reports. So following sites that would provide updates on that there. So just
Yeah.
signing up for like email alerts, and then also trying to follow like podcasts that might talk about that on
Okay.
there. And then you have these companies also like ServiceNow, OneTrust, Vendreminder. They carry like webinars that talk about
Okay.
kind of like engaging or developing or changing third party risk management.
Got it. So let's talk about this. So you identified a critical vulnerability, across wide one of your service providers. However, the vendor's patching timeline was not clear. How would you undo that?
Oh, sure. So the vendor's like patch release timeline
Yeah.
is unclear. So we're not sure what the timeline is to implement that patch for the vulnerability.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I would say what I would do in that instance or scenario is to first of all like reach out to the vendor first to get an understanding of when we can have like a timeline to actually patch that vulnerability. And in the meanwhile, internally, I'll try to see if it's something that, I guess, if it's a critical system that would cause like disruption or downtime would cause disruption. I'll try to see if there's like any compensating activity or control that we can implement to kind of like safeguard during that wait period while we wait for a patch. So I guess internally I'll check to see if it's like a critical system or application that downtime could cause disruption. If it's not, definitely seeing if we could keep a halt on that or at least stop usage of that application. If not, if
Okay.
it's something that could cause disruption, looking at compensating controls or
All
activities.
right. Tell me a time you had to make a hard decision to terminate a vendor's contract.
Yes, so I would say an instance for that would be in a situation where I was carrying out, so this was already an onboarded vendor, and we had like documentation for the vendor and everything. And so one of the key risk indicators that we use is the number of exceptions in the particular like due diligence process for the vendor. And so it had the number of exceptions had gone beyond like our acceptance criteria. And so I had to communicate that over to the business owner to let them know that they had kind of exceeded that metric that we had for them. And so this was a step that we need to take in terms of termination.
Okay.
And so this was also contract, this was a clause that was noted during the contract phase.
Okay. Got it. How would you assess immediate risk and mitigation strategies while minimizing business disruption in general? So you identify the risk. We need to have a strategy to mitigate the risk. However, we don't want to disrupt business at the same time. A good example was Log4j happened to a lot of Windows servers, and most organizations were impacted by this virus. At the same time, we had to run a business. So, how would you kind of, what's going to be a strategy for you to say, well, let's mitigate this, the impact and still make sure we resolve the issues at hand?
Yeah, I would say in regards to managing like security consciousness and
Yeah,
usability, what I would do in that process is firstly just going back to see if there are any compensating activities or like controls we can
yeah.
make use of in the meanwhile that they might not necessarily stop that risk, but at least they can minimize the impact that would have happened if like there's a materialization of the risk. So I definitely say just trying to find compensating controls or activities that we can implement in the while we focus on like a long-term remediation.
Okay. Why do you think your expertise is the right one for this role?
Yeah, I would say my expertise or what would make me stand out for this role, what would make me stand out for this role, I would say it would be my balance between both. Because let me backtrack with that. So
Yeah,
with GRC in general, like it's very easy to just like I guess report on a risk. I think there sometimes isn't that ability there's a lack of that ability to balance security consciousness or focusing on security hygiene and also the business context. So I think from my experience, I've been able to learn how to strike that balance between, okay, being firm with making sure
Mhm.
that we're staying secure, that we as the organization are secure and also staying secure, but also looking at the business perspective to make sure that this is something that we're able to implement that is going to be able to work within that business context or business process.
All right. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes. In regards to, I wanted to know in regards to like your organization's current third-party risk management program, are there any like pain points or future goals that the organization would like to reach or focus on?
I think one of our big concern right now is the advent of AI models and large learning model all over the world right now. So, for our third-party strategic vendors, we are always worried that confidential information is not shared within their model to unauthorized access. So that's a big pain point for us. And in our service ticketing system like Jira and ServiceNow right now, we don't know if confidential information are shared in those platforms also at the moment. So it's a constant, ever evolving challenge with our um, third party vendors right now. So I think that's our biggest concern right now.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Sure. Any other question?
No, that would be all for now.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right, let's pause. Ladies and gentlemen, give feedback, please. Before I give a final feedback. Okay, I see a lot of people say very detailed. That is good. Okay, this is great from Bumi Fadiora. So Bumi has been very detailed, also giving some good, valuable questions. So thank you for those questions, Bumi. Those were awesome, folks. I mean, those were really, really lovely questions you gave us. All right, let's another one. Okay, Amaka says she's hired. Okay, all right, we'll take that anytime. All right, so here's my own personal take. I mean, personally, I think no doubt the the confidence level is there. You are very articulate and detailed. You have a good sense of the role itself because you take it from a real life angle. The only area I would challenge you is you can always sneak in a use case to say, well, I had this before, this was what happened. So you have the knowledge base, but tie it with a story and a use case for me so that I will just follow your story, right? Yes, you gave me some concept, but just relate it and take ownership and say, that's a good point. I had a vendor that was actually one of our service providers in the cloud space, and this is what happened. You're not giving the confidential information, but you're creating a story and a narrative they would probably be dealing with right now too, right? You can say it's about network monitoring vendor or our infrastructure vendor, something that that most people already are, familiar with those issues. We just sneak that in our conversation for sure, because that would tie the humanity to it. So people will just bingo, she got it. She's identifying with one of our current issue, and that makes us more comfortable. Okay, I like that. Somebody said, very calm and confident. I love her answering style. Soso is a popular. I've learned from the interview she's very knowledgeable. Love it. She is indeed. But remember, she put the work. She put the work. I'll tell you, she's just very articulate. Okay, use the star approach. I like that too. That would help with the story. So in your story, sneak in that. Hey, one of my clients, the situation was this. You kind of just make it flow way better. Somebody says she's superb. I love that. Okay, somebody said, very professional. I would add specific story to a real case at a real job on your resume. Perfect. That's a good point. So make sure you just tie it to a story to make us work with that. All right, that's really good. I mean, honestly, folks, oh man, you know, the universe would always open for people that put the work and effort. I mean, so I think personally, I think it was a very good interview. I think it's a no-brainer. I will be very comfortable to hire you, and you show the energy, the excitement, like someone that I just wish I can get on my team because she will research it and figure it out. Because at the end of the day, don't forget, nobody wants a dead beat to just be in my team because you have past knowledge. People want execution. So I need someone that you don't need to know everything, but you can go figure stuff out, right? That's what we all need because the world has changed anyway, let's face it. So, I mean, amazing job, really. So let's do our normal drum roll. Let me find you. Let's give you a grade as we always do. Okay, this is for the upcoming program. All right, drum roll. Grrr. All right, I would definitely go with a 5. Remember, if you get a 5 in our community, that is pretty good. That's the highest we typically go. So we try to force our community to go push it to another level entirely. That's what we challenge you to do. So that was very well done, sis. I mean, very well done. And I wish you all the best. And as you transition, just ping me if you need me for anything. We'll make it happen. Don't forget, everybody, like us on YouTube so we can get more people visit and enjoy these sessions together with us. For those of us that have asked about the upcoming program, it's kicking off March 2nd. For folks in our internship already, just enjoy. There's so much coming, folks. It is crazy. Last week we talked about risk assessment. This week we are jumping into third party risk. So open the door because it's third party risk we are talking about this coming week. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can't wait to see you all and be part of the March 2nd class. It's going to be very impactful. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. And thank you, sis. Very well done. Thank you. Thank you so much for making this. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Enjoy the day. God bless. Bye. Yes, the video will be available immediately, maybe in the next 10 minutes or so. Take care, everybody.